And today I want to show you how to make a sweet potato pie. Vardaman, Mississippi is the sweet potato capital of the world and hosts an annual sweet potato festival featuring a pie eating contest and a sweet potato king and queen competition. That's how important the sweet potato is to the South. Now, a nice alternative to pumpkin, especially if you don't like pumpkin, you're gonna love sweet potato pie. Choose 4 sweet potatoes of equal size. I just make a few fork holes in it and get this right into a 400-degree oven and roast them until they are soft. It takes at least an hour. And while the sweet potatoes are roasting, it's a good idea to get your crust ready. This recipe calls for a blind baked crust. And it's a pâte brisée. It's been chilled. That makes it easier to roll. And we'll get it rolled out into a nice round without falling apart. If it's well-made pâte brisée, it does that. Work on a floured surface, and I like to keep churning the dough so that I'm getting a nice even thickness to my round. I like baking these pies in a glass pie plate. It bakes really well. This is a 9-inch pie plate, and once you get the pastry to an even thinness, just roll it up. This is the easiest way to transfer from your rolling surface to your dish. Unfurl it. I like to use a scissor just to cut off the excess. I leave about a 1/2-inch overhang. And here I'm folding under the edge so that I can nicely flute it. And if your dough becomes a little too soft, get it right back into the refrigerator. Just a little bit of chilling will make it much, much easier to handle. So you see that looks good. And everybody has a different way of making a fluted crust. But if you use your 2 forefingers and your thumb, you can shape your crust very nicely. And this crust calls for blind baking, which means we're going to pre-bake the crust so that when we get the sweet potato filling ready, we pour that filling into the crust and then bake it again. Use a fork to dock the bottom of your crust. This will help the crust cook evenly and prevent bubbles or eruptions in the baking of the crust. Chill it now. And here's that gorgeous, gorgeous crust, all chilled. Oh, and make sure your oven is preheated to 375 degrees. We want to line this with parchment paper. So I have a nice round of parchment paper. A little hard to put that big round in there, so I just crumple up my paper. And now it will fit much more easily into the bottom of the crust. It works really, really well. And then pour your mixture of weights. I just use an assortment of different dried beans that I use over and over again as weights. And they fill all the nooks and crannies and do a very fine job of weighting down the crust. Get this right into your 375 oven and bake until the pastry begins to color around the edges, about 30 minutes. Then you're going to remove the beans and parchment and continue to bake until the pastry is dried out and turns a light golden color. About 10 minutes more. And our sweet potatoes are miraculously ready, cooled, and we will start making the filling. So here's our beautiful pie crust. The underside is a lovely golden brown. The sweet potatoes have cooled also, and we need 2½ cups of sweet potatoes, and they peel very easily by hand. Just peel off the skin, which is loosened from the flesh by the baking. And we need 2½ cups of potato puree, and you can measure ahead of time. This looks like 1 cup. Just put this in your food processor. And this is exactly 2½ cups, so no problem. We'll just put this in and puree it nicely. So just process those potatoes until they're smooth. There, that's good. So that will go right into our bowl when we're ready. And into a large mixing bowl, 3 large eggs. Whisk those up. 1½ cups of 50/50. Your sweet potato mixture. Good, deep color. That's what we want. You might ask, well, why not use canned sweet potato? This is so infinitely superior and so easy. There's no reason to use the canned variety. And sweet potatoes are readily available everywhere now. As soon as you get this pretty well mixed, add 4 tablespoons of melted, cooled butter and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. So 2/4 teaspoons of allspice and 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Freshly grated nutmeg, about 1/8 teaspoon. Fragrant and delightful. And the zest of a lemon, about 1 teaspoon. Now your oven at this point should be preheated to 400 degrees. And don't forget 1/3 cup of sugar. And that's the filling. Very similar to pumpkin pie. There. Pour this right into your beautiful pie crust. It should be just about enough. Right into the oven. It'll come out in about 50 minutes. Wait till you see it baked. The pie is baked. Cool it completely before slicing. And just lift that out. Looks so good. Serve and delight. This delicious sweet potato pie is a Southern favorite that really can't be beat. Try it instead of pumpkin.